I just arrived in Kyoto, and it is definitely a little more crowded than it was in the pandemic. Now I've come out here to shoot a documentary, but there's a little bit of a challenge inside of that. This is actually trip number 2 for shooting this documentary. I came a few weeks back, I got a whole bunch of the scenes, I reviewed the footage, and now I'm back to kind of fill in the gaps and get kind of a more comprehensive view of things. I used to do my documentaries all in one take, but I always feel like I was missing out on something. So this technique of shoot once, review everything, fill in the gaps is a lot less stressful and hopefully will give us a lot better videos. On my last trip, a lot of people mentioned how taking a bus in Kyoto has just become such a stress. So I actually contacted the bus company and said I would love to kind of get their input. This actually feels like a perfect time to share 1 or 2 tips on how to find quiet or hidden unknown places. We'll start within major areas like this. Right now, we're right in Kyoto. It's always super crowded to the point where there are roads that have been blocked off and you're not allowed to go down. But you see, there's a very, very easy to determine pattern. You can escape the matrix. Let me show you. So if you take a look at where we are right now, there's not that many people walking. And there's one very simple reason for that that might be a little more surprising than you would think. Also, one of the things that I love about Kyoto is these long entrances like this. Kyoto's really well known for these super narrow, long entrances that lead to something because everything's so tightly packed together. So my very first tip for you is just go 1 or 2 streets off of the main street. The main street of Gion right now is packed with tourists, and I'm maybe 2 streets over, and you've got just as much beauty without having to fight the crowds. So if you're going to an area that you really want to enjoy the peace and the quiet, just go a little bit off of the main. And this works for Tokyo. This doesn't really, for some reason, work that well in Osaka. Pretty much every street in Osaka is crowded. It's skippable anyway. If you go just a little bit outside of that main area where everybody else is walking, that is tip 1 for finding the peace. Oh, by the way, I did want to point out that this doesn't work 100%. It's not like you're just gonna turn a corner and suddenly there's gonna be no people. This road here, for example, is right off the edge, and as you can see, there are plenty, but I guarantee you if I went like 2 down that way, it would be empty. Continuing back on to finding the quieter hidden spaces. I thought everybody knew this, but it turns out maybe not everybody does. On Google Maps, the busy or heavily populated areas will be marked in yellow. So if you're more of a visual and map person, just stepping outside of those yellow areas will likely yield quieter results. Okay, I'm gonna do my Arashiyama shoot and then we'll get back to more tips. It's been some time since I've been out here. Last time I came out, it was completely quiet, but in the 5 minutes that I've been here, I've watched people climbing up on these ledges. I've watched people trying to carve their names into stuff. And there are a lot of people who have carved their names into stuff like this. I can very, very quickly understand why Japanese are starting to get sick and tired of tourists who have absolutely no respect whatsoever. To a certain degree, there's going to be a level of cultural differences, but again, then there's just some complete and utter lack of common sense. For all of the misbehavior of tourists that you hear about, you don't actually see that much, right? You see more online than you do in person. So in this very short time span, to see this much in person kind of derailed me a little bit. But Arashiyama is still beautiful. No, we're not having this. Don't leave garbage. All right, brief 30 seconds to decompress. in the end, nothing they're doing is that bad or that damaging, but it's the fact that if you let it happen, if you just let people litter and shake the trees and all of that, then they'll do it again, and then other people will see that and think that's okay, and it's this self-perpetuating cycle that sometimes all it takes is for someone to hand the garbage back or maybe tuck it into your waistband to get just embarrassed enough to not do it again. Like, part of me feels like probably shouldn't be this bothered by it, but the other part of me feels that I'm well justified to be exactly this bothered by it. I don't know. It is what it is. We have 2 days ahead of us still. So you know what? I will think of it no more, and I will just enjoy this tunnel of trees that I'm walking through. Another little tip that seems obvious but amazingly really isn't is a lot of places won't start getting busy until about 9 or 10 a.m. So if you go out somewhere early in the morning or late at night, whether it be in Kyoto, Tokyo, or whatever, you can have the entire area to yourself. The absolute proof of this is the number of night walks we've done through Tokyo where we've come across no one whatsoever. Mind you, if you can avoid it, try not to drag your roller suitcase through the city streets, especially in Kyoto, super early morning. With the number of hotels and Airbnbs popping up, it means that quiet rural neighborhoods are having people rolling suitcases through at 4, 5, 6 in the morning. If you have a suitcase, there's not really much that you can do. It's not like, it might be heavy, you can't just pick it up. But knowing is half the battle. I don't know about you, but I feel so bad every single time I walk through a quiet Japanese neighborhood with a roller suitcase. If I'm off to the airport at like 4 or 5 in the morning, I'm like trying to lift it up as I go. Maybe it's just me. Also, really cute little shrine over here. Yeah. And it has a turtle. Any shrine that has a turtle is an okay shrine in my books. That's a good thing. Turtle shrines are good.
88
88歳。
昭和12年
初めて出会った時は、もうやっぱり人が少なすぎて、
そうひっそりして静かでよかったでしょ。
We met for the very first time during the pandemic. She was by far my favorite person that I got to talk to, and every single time that I've come back to Kyoto since, I've literally come just to visit.
おかしな話やけど、日本人の癒すと心の癒す場所やん。そうでしょ、神さん拝んで、ほんですっきりして静かにして帰ると。こっちでお願い。
This gentleman just came here for the first time in 30 years to get a bowl of udon, and they were like, "Oh, we're done for the day." And he's like, "It's my first time to come here in 30 years, and I came just for the udon." And they're actually now just restarting the kitchen and prepping it just for him, and that is why I love this place. The people here are just amazing. Alright, full confession, it is the next day and I got so wrapped in this documentary shoot that I kind of let this one slip. But based on talking to Kyoto locals yesterday and hearing their thoughts on the situation that's going on here right now, I grabbed another really good tip for finding quieter places to go. The Kyoto people have started to feel like the major tourism locations, the Kinkakuji and all of those, while they are beautiful, they don't necessarily I've just found a random temple. They don't necessarily represent Kyoto anymore. A lot of them are filled with shops just aimed at grabbing the money of tourists, and they're very quiche and they're not real. They're not authentic in the way that, for example, a random temple like this that I have just stumbled across walking through the streets. It's almost midday right now, and I had swung by Kiyomizu just before noon, and it was absolutely packed. It's one of my favorite spots. It's beautiful, things like that in the Golden Temple. I can understand people wanting to go, but there are so many other temples and shrines inside of Kyoto that have like little cats just walking along, and absolutely no people. There are tons of them. So if you want to experience somewhere like that, is that the same cat? Is that a different cat? So there's that little cat here. There's another one there. And then a third one. Wow, okay. We just have a family of cats. How you guys doing? Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. Go along your way. So the bus driver that I interviewed yesterday said so many people go to the same 3, 4, 5 spots, but it leaves a lot of this type of Kyoto dead empty, and it's just such a waste. Again, totally understandable why you want to hit those spots. They are gorgeous, but if you do want to get away from the crowds and the tourism, it's entirely possible to do so. This was apparently called Chomyoji Temple, by the way, and I found it just because I didn't want to walk the main streets, and so I slipped into the back streets like this, and that's how I came across it. Like, here's another one that is literally just about 2 minutes down the road, and it's gorgeous. And about 45 seconds down the road, you have yet another one. They are seriously scattered everywhere. So I've made my way out to Heian Jingu right now. I'm at one of my favorite spots where you just kind of walk over these. And it is a very different experience than it was when I came here during the pandemic, which is kind of a given. Also, these trees here, every time the wind blows, you can just see the pollen wafting off of them in clouds, and it's amazing. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up is spots that will help you avoid the typical tourist trail. I think that typical tourist trail is fantastic. You've got your usual Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, and Hiroshima. Also, this section here, if you could smell this and just what this is. Oh, wow. A lot of bumblebees too. I haven't seen bumblebees in forever. And there's just a ton of them here. And they're so chubby, cute. Anyway, that typical tourist trail has its own value, but there are so many places. Oh, can you see I don't know if you can see the wafting. Oh, you can feel the pollen in your throat. It gets stuck in there. Okay, I swear we're gonna get to this point. One of the places that I always recommend is Gujo Hachiman. It's got a similar shrine and temple density to Kyoto. It's surrounded in mountains. It's got this castle up on top. You can get this like sea of clouds effect with the castle that is absolutely gorgeous. Every single street, temple, and shrine is spectacular, and they get so few tourists that the locals are so excited to see you. But it's also not the only place. The island of Shikoku is another absolute gem that way too many people skip over. I love the Momiji, but that is where I met Yo-chan living in the abandoned school, or Ayaka, who runs her little bar Add Color. And honestly, that still barely even scratches the surface. There are more. Any of those areas like Shikoku that don't have a Shinkansen or bullet train passing directly through them are gonna take a pretty heavy hit just because the access is a little bit more difficult. But I recently went out to the Aizu Wakamatsu area up in Fukushima. And when I say Fukushima, I mean it's like really inland Fukushima. And that area was filled with gorgeous hidden gems, everything from temples to a station run by a cat. One of the most beautiful hotels that I've ever seen in my entire life. I spent a week there, and what's more is the entire time I was there, I didn't come across even one other Western tourist in a week. Also, it is like spring, early summer right now, but this tree is always this color, and I love it. And there are so many places that I want to recommend outside of the tourist trail that I feel like that itself is going to have to be a totally separate video that I'm going to put up on the main channel. But for those of you who have been to Japan, if you have a few gems outside of that main trail, let me know. Please drop them in. I may even add them to my list. By the way, just 5 or 10 minutes away from Heian Jingu and all that craziness is once again this beautiful, quiet shrine that has absolutely nobody in it. Maybe about 2 or so years ago, I decided to do a trip of Kyoto that wasn't really the well-known Kyoto, hitting only hidden and unknown places. Beautiful shrines, crazy bridges. That one almost definitely would require a lot of footwork or a car. But there's more than just this central area as well. But so much construction going on. You know, Kyoto almost filed for bankruptcy at one point. You know, I think I'm just gonna have to put an entire playlist of Kyoto videos that you can link off from this. That's hidden spots, Kyoto bankruptcy, Kyoto completely empty. You name it. There's a ton. That is an interesting approach to covering one's car. I think it's a GTR. I'm on day 3 now, by the way. I've never really considered myself doing this much content in Kyoto, mostly because on principle it's one of the main tourist locations. It's one of the spots that I avoid going to. I already live in Tokyo, but the contrasts that this city goes through, the struggles, and the people that you meet while you're here keeps bringing me back, and I just feel there's so many interesting stories to tell. And while much, if not all, of Japan is filled with this beautiful type of architecture, there is a certain ease of access and simplicity that comes in just coming out to Kyoto and seeing these things. Like, I will happily be the first to admit that while I am quick to recommend areas like Gujo Hachiman just because of how gorgeous it is, you're not going to be able to access it in the 2.5, 3 hours by Shinkansen that you can with Kyoto. And in the end, to each their own, but I also know that there are a ton of people out there who, just like me, want to enjoy the much more quiet, peaceful side of Japan, and it does still exist all over the place. And also, just look at this building for a second. Wow, that is just, birds are just going nuts, but this is just fantastic and beautiful. Very obviously, clearly abandoned. I've covered this in recent live streams on the Tokyo Lens Explorer channel, but due to recent changes in earthquake and safety laws, a lot of these old abandoned buildings are now going to need to be torn down, which means we are about to see a massive change in the landscape of Japan as a whole, really. I get it, it's for safety, but it's gonna be sad to see so many old and beautiful places go. We got a bus driver right now who's actually helping out with all of this. He's been insanely kind and accommodating, and we got stuck with announcements, and he was kind enough to apologize. It was not necessary. I actually kind of enjoyed the moment. We now have music. There we go. And the music will continue. Just enjoy it.